Hi everyone, it's Keely here for Soy and Shea. Thank you for joining me for today's video where we're going to go and make sunflower soap. Now sunflowers have to be my all-time favourite flower. They are so bright and sunny and happy, and every time I see them I just smile because they're just that sort of flower. So when I saw that Lee from Wicked Lee Goods had made some soap scraper tools so we could create sunflowers in the middle of the soap, I knew I had to have them. Now Lee sent me these quite some time ago and I've only just been able to get them out and have a good play with them. So I've worked out how much soap I need, and we're going to go and make our sunflower soap. Now, if you are interested in these or any of the other tools that Lee makes, go and check out the link down in the description box and go and check out Wicked Lee Goods. But for now we're going to go and see how easy it's going to be to make a sunflower soap. Let's go. To do this soap, I am going to work in separate layers, so I have split my soap off for the different components. This bucket here I have got for my sunflower, and basically I worked it out. This is almost like a cylinder shape, so I worked out how wide this was and then how long my mold is, worked out how big a capacity that would actually be, and I made up that amount of oil plus a bit extra just to account for that sort of scraping off area. And then I worked out how much I was going to need for the rest of my mold. Now I'm not going to get too much into the maths because it's probably very complicated how I do it, and I don't want to confuse too many people. But basically in this bucket I have enough oil to do both the bottom and the top of my soap, and because I want the top and the bottom all to be the same color, I'm going to put my color into this bucket of oils, and then once it's mixed through I'm going to split this out into what will be my top and my bottom layer. Now basically for the bottom layer of my mold over here I want half of what I would normally have in my soap mold. So with my oils I would normally have 1.95 kilos of oil. So for the bottom half I need 975 grams of oil, so I'm going to split this bucket up. So I've got 975 in my bucket, and then I'll put the rest of it in here. Now this isn't the 1.95 that I normally use, it's a little bit less because we are going to be scraping some of it out and I didn't want to waste too much. So I'm going to get my colour mixed in, we'll split it off, and then we'll come back and we'll start making this soap. Get on to making this like we always do. I'm going to pour my lye water into this bucket, but first of all just going to scrape down all that oil that's just hanging onto the side. I am going to split it up just to do a little bit of a swirl to add some interest into it. Once it's poured into my mold I'm going to leave it to set up, and then we'll come back and we'll start scraping the first part of the sunflower. This is set up enough now that I'm going to do the first part of the scraping here. So this is going to take out the bottom part of the flour, and I've just got a jug here with a piping bag in. I just find it easier to put all of my scrap or all of the stuff I'm going to scrape off into the piping bag and then pipe it into molds afterwards. Now when I got these ones made, Lee asked me for the size of my mold, and she's made them so that if I sit this straight down on top of my mold like that and pull it across, this is exactly halfway down. So she's made this super easy. Let's start pulling. Well, for me I'm going to be pushing it along. Hopefully we're set up. Oh, this is looking nice. Now as I start to get this sort of build up here, I am just going to take my spatula here and pull it up and into the pot here. Now the fragrance oil I chose to use for this one is called Tibetan Trance or Trance from off of Aroma. and it has got notes of rose. There is some jasmine, bergamot, orange blossom, citronella. There's actually nothing in there to do with sunflowers at all, but it is a fragrance that when first time I smelt it, I immediately thought of sunflowers. I did make one of my little rays of sunshine with this and it came up beautifully. Alright, I'm going to keep going through, scraping this out, being careful not to damage my mold. Oh, I've just come up a little bit from off the bottom here. Let's come back a bit and keep going. I'm going to have to turn this around so I can see what I'm doing now. Scrape that. Okay, so that is looking beautiful and crisp in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and pipe this into my other mold while it is still pipeable. Then we'll come back and we will do the sunflower part of this soap. Okay, so I'm all set to do the next layer in here. I've got my oil, my lye, my fragrance. I'm going to be doing a base color using my Wellington, and then I'm going to do a drop pour with some orange vibrance. So I'm going to get it all mixed up, pour it into the mold, and then we'll come back and we will use the scraper tool to create that sunflower shape. Set up enough that we can start scraping, but I do need to be careful with how I am doing this, because the way that Lee has made this is so that the flower, when they're actually lined up the right way, will create a full flower. If I was to accidentally put this through that way, no big deal, but it's not going to be an even looking flower. One way to make sure that you are doing it the right way in case you do end up flipping your mold around is I've just put some little dots up in the corner, so I know that I pulled this one. I've put a dot in the corner of my mold, so the dot needs to line up with that one. So now when I go to put this one through, I'm lining my dot up with that same corner. I'm going to pop that one in and I'm going to start pulling it down as I did with the green, and I'm going to scrape any excess into my container here. So let's start going with this one. This one is smelling really good, and hopefully as we scrape this back we will be going far enough down, oh yes, to get the green that's in there. So I do love doing these sculptured soaps, but geez, they're messy. Let's start scooping some of this out and into my piping bag. We've got our sunflower now all sculpted out. It's looking really pretty. Now I have seen it when some people actually only make just enough soap to kind of fill in that bit and then they mound it up through here. I prefer to actually scrape my whole mold because I find I get nicer patterns through the soap than if I'm constantly manipulating it and moving it around. If anyone caught when I did the sugar and spice Christmas soap, you can actually see how the colors get all muddied together in that one because I had to scrape it a couple of times. So I do prefer to do it in one pass. I know it results in a fair bit of wasted soap, but I do end up with a whole heap of kids soaps to either give away or sell, and there is another mold over that way as well, even more. So now we've got that last bit of green that I had split off. We've got the lye water, we've got our colour to mix through. So we're going to get it all mixed up, and then we're going to pour it onto the top of that soap. So it looks like I calculated just enough soap to be able to fill this mold up. I'm about a mil short of the top, but that's okay. This is still the right size. The first thing I am going to do with this one, I have let it sit here for a couple of minutes just to firm up and clean up some of the mess. The mess you make with this style of soap is phenomenal. But I'm just going to give this a bit of a sprinkle with some of my Daffodil Fields Bio Sparkle, which is available on the Pimp My Soap website, and I really love this one. It's got a real translucent sort of look and just the odd fleck of bright yellow. So I'm just going to sprinkle that across the top, and then I have some little embeds to put on here as well, because I'm not a fan of really flat top soaps like that, so I always have to add that little bit extra, and I didn't want to disturb underneath doing a spoon top, so I have made these little sunflowers using the flower medley mold from off of Pimp My Soap. I just used this little flower in here along with some soap dough. I pushed a little piece of brown soap dough into the center and then filled up the rest of the mold with a mix of yellow and orange, and I am basically going to just pop flowers all over the top. Each bar will pretty much get one complete flower, but then there'll probably be half flowers. In fact, this is what we're going to do, because my head just says it needs to be in some sort of order. So we're going to have two on each side and one kind of in the middle that will end up getting chopped. So let's get all of these on here, and then I will give you a closer look at the top. So how super happy does that look? I am super pleased with how this is coming up. I particularly like this sunflower in here. It reminds me of that new sort of breed that they've brought out with the deep red petals on it, but super happy with how this has turned out. We're going to leave it set overnight and we'll be back shortly. We'll cut it open and then we'll finish this soap off. Okay, we are ready to cut into sunflowers, and I am absolutely loving it. There is a peak at the end there, so hopefully we're going to get that beautiful sunflower shape through the middle. Let's get it all lined up. I'm really happy with the colour on this one as well. Originally I was going to do the background in a blue. When I actually did my little ray of sunshines to test this fragrance, I didn't get any discoloration from the fragrance oil, but when I went to pour it out of the bottle, I realized it was actually quite dark, and I didn't want to discolor blue into green with how dark it was, so I thought we'll just go for green. Oh, this is looking nice. Let's grab this piece. There is a little sunflower in the middle. It's absolutely gorgeous. Really love how this has come up. Love the swirls in that green as well. Maybe next time I'll have to do a little bit more of a test with the colors, but maybe next time I will do green on the bottom and blue on the top, so it looks like it's in a field of green with the blue sky. But I'm still really happy with how that has come together, and that is the top with all those little sunflowers on there. I am so super happy with how that has come up so far, but we are not at the end of doing this. Part of the set also includes the stamp. Now, one of the questions I get asked a lot about stamping of soaps is, at what point do I stamp them? And there is no sort of definitive answer on this one. It really depends upon what the soap formula is, what the weather's doing, and things like that. In the middle of winter, when it's cold, I can generally stamp my soaps within a couple of hours of cutting them. But on a day like today, we're in summer, it's quite humid. I'm going to actually leave these for a couple of days to harden up so we get a really nice, clean, crisp stamped image in them. So I'm going to leave these ones, as I said, for a couple of days just to firm up a little bit, and then we'll come back and we will stamp our little sunflowers onto the front. Okay, so the soaps have been sitting here for a couple of days now, and it is time for me to tidy them up and stamp them. I'm using the soap beveling tool, which is also from off Wickedly Goods, and she has a really nice little attachment on hers, which just takes off just a very small amount of the corners. When I bevel the soaps, I want to take off that sharp edge, but I also don't want to lose too much of my soap off here. And after disasters I've had with other soap bevelers, she convinced me to try hers, which I have, and it gives really beautiful edges, but it really doesn't take that much off either, so you don't lose too much of the soap. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get all of these edges nicely tidied up, and then we will come back and we will do the stamping. Okay, so we've got all of the soaps all cleaned up, ready to stamp, and I've gone through and I've made sure that my flowers are all the right way. When you look at the stamp, you can see it's not completely symmetrical, so there is a right and a wrong way to stamp on here. Now, when you've got the stamp in your hand, as long as the Wickedly logo is facing the correct way when you're looking at it, you know that you've got your stamp the right way up, so it makes it really easy to actually line it up. But then you've got to make sure that these flowers are the right way, and it is much easier to see it in person. If I grab this soap here, I know that on this side, this little petal over here is about center of the soap, whereas this one actually sits below the center line. So I know this is the right side. You can actually see it much better if I show you the scraping tool. You can see that the petal on this side here is actually right in the center, whereas that one drops down, and that is the way in which this stamp also fits into here. So you do need to make sure that you have got it lined up. It is much easier to see it in person. What I am going to do, I've got my little tray here, and I'm going to put some Sahara mica on here just to make the stamp stand out a little bit more. You don't have to do this. This is just something I want to do. You could just stamp everything on here, and I will show you the difference at the end. But I'm going to do it with some mica, and I know a lot of people, I've just sprayed some rubbing alcohol in there, some 70% rubbing alcohol, and a lot of people dip their stamp in, but I find I get in a complete mess when I do that. So I spray it with some alcohol, I get a paintbrush, and then I just very gently paint on where I want that to go, and I find that I don't get an overload of mica, so I don't get any splodges or anything like that. Once I've got it done, I'm going to turn it over so I've got the logo pointing upwards. I'm going to line it up there, and then I just need to grab my hammer. I'm just going to use my hammer, and I'm going to gently tap this down. And then we're going to pull it up. And it looks so pretty. Oh, I just knocked a little bit off the petal, and there is our little sunflower. How gorgeous does that look? So again, once I've stamped that one, I'm just going to grab myself a little bit more mica. I know you can't see it on the camera, it's just off here, and I'm going to repaint The more rubbing alcohol you have in your paint, the more, or mica, the more watery it is going to be and the more chances you've got of it bleeding. So I do like to do it this way so I can control how much rubbing alcohol is on my stamp here. So again, give it a good tap. And there's another one. Absolutely love how it's come up. As I said, I will show you what it looks like without. Now this one wasn't actually lined up. Actually, no, this one was lined up the right way, but you can still see the sunflower in there, but it does look so much prettier just with that shimmer and shine on it. Now the stamp isn't so badly not aligned that you couldn't actually stamp on this side as well, but what I'm going to do with this stamp is I'm going to do the sunflower on this side and then I'm going to do my logo on this side. So I'm going to go through and finish stamping up all of these soaps. I hope you've enjoyed coming along with me as I have used the stamp and scraper tools from Off Wickedly Goods. If you're interested in these, don't forget to go and check out the links down below and go directly through to the Wickedly website, and she's got tons of other shaper tools and stamps there as well. So thank you so much for watching, and until the next video comes out, I hope you have a good one and I will see you then. Bye.